Jim's having an oatmeal waffle with saskatoons, and I'm going to talk about, or James will talk about the Cantos of Ezra Pound. I have nothing to say about that. So, go ahead.
Yeah, so we started the other day. I'm not sure where we started with the first canto. Now, when I read it this last time, I've gone through it before. I went from back to front. But with you folks, I'm going to take it easy on you. Not that it really is easy. The stuff is not nearly as difficult as folks might think it is, or that Ezra Pound thought it was, because he tried to make it more difficult than it needed to be. And then went down to the ship. It should be, then we went down to the ship, or we went down to the ship. Why not just go that way? Extra word there. Why start with and? Oh, just was being artsy, smartsy, let's say. You know what I'm talking about. Set keel to breakers. Set the keel to breakers, or even to the breakers. You can kind of say, use a plural like that without the the. But set keel, no. Set the keel to breakers. Maybe that's nautical parlance to just use the keel that way, but does this guy know much about sailing? I don't know. Fourth on the godly sea. So set keel to breakers. We went down to the ship, set keel to breakers on the onto the godly sea, or something like that, into the godly sea. I'm not sure what godly means there. Godly. You know, like ordinarily that means kind of like, excuse me, being living a godly life or something like this. How you use a godly sea. It might, maybe that's something from Homer, you know, like where he's taken a Homeric epithet and kind of messed around with it. But godly is not a good word there. And we set up, oh, here's the we. We set up mast. We set up the mast. We set up mast and sail. You can kind of use the mast and sail. If you use two things like that, you don't necessarily need the before those. On that sword ship. That ship. Why? Okay, down to the ship. On that sword ship. Why the that? Why not the? You know, you can actually save a consonant there, okay? On that sword ship. As I was saying before, the camera might have shut off before it caught it. But you say black ship. You might say swarthy ship, but that's even old-fashioned. But swart, you know, you might as well use the German Schwarz, which is cognate with it. You see how swart and Schwarz are related. So yeah, he's just being precious. And poets aren't paid to do anything, really. But if they were paid, they wouldn't get paid to be precious. Swordship, what's that about? Old-fashioned locution. Even then, you know, it would have been, I suspect, 100 years earlier, around the time of John Keats, it would have been archaic. Boar sheep aboard her. Boar sheep aboard her. Boar sheep aboard her. Well, we had sheep. I guess that's there for assonance and for alliteration. You know, it's not that good. It's not that bad. And our bodies also. So it almost seems like Anglo-Saxon stuff. You know, oftentimes Anglo-Saxon lines would have three instances of alliteration in a line. Well, okay. Heavy with weeping and winds from sternward. Yeah, so I think he might be doing something like Anglo-Saxon here, heavy with weeping and winds. Bore us out onward with bellying. Yeah, he's actually tying it together. It's semi-poetry with alliteration and stuff like that, but it's very badly done alliteration. Very bad. heavy with weeping, and our body's also heavy with weeping. I don't know. Would you say your body was heavy with weeping? Like almost as though they're drenched or something. And winds from sternward. Okay, sternward. So I guess that's a following wind, stem to stern. Anyway, bore us out onward. Bore us out onward. I think he's got that for alliteration with belling. So he's got B there, belling, bore us out, belling, Kent. Circe's this craft. No, Circe's is this craft. Or this craft is Circe's. You don't leave the is out. The trim coiffed goddess. Trim coiffed. So she's got a hairstyle that's trim. Well, maybe it was. I don't know much about Circe, but trim coiffed goddess. It's hard to say that, eh? Trim coiffed goddess. Okay. Just try saying. Yeah, well, trim. Wow, that's a real tongue twister, that one. Then sat we amidships. No, then we sat amidships. Or just leave the then off. We sat amidships. Wind jamming the tiller. So there was he might be making a pun on a windjammer. I think that was a term. I don't know what a windjammer is, but for a type of ship. Thus with stretched sail. So why with us? Why not just say, with stretched sail, we went over sea till day's end? No, it's got to have thus in. Like poets are supposed to be economical with their words.
Yeah, he's economical in the wrong places.
In pretty well all the wrong places. Okay? It's just stupid. Leaving out the thus and so on and so forth. But then he's chucking in thens and thuses. They're pretty empty words, don't you think? Thens and thuses? Unless they're used judiciously. But this guy was anything but judicious, and not just in his politics. With stretched sail, so there's the wind blowing. That's good. Stretch, good enough. We went over sea. I guess you could say that. Wouldn't you generally say seas or the sea? I don't know. Sea till day's end. No, the day's end. Okay. See how he's put the thus in there. But he's left out the till the day's end. Garbage. Sun to a slumber, shadows o'er all the ocean. What is he jabbering about? So I think he's anticipating the verb that starts the next line. Came we then to the bounds of deepest water. We came to the bounds of deepest water. So leave out the then, but inversion. What? That's not old-fashioned. That isn't English. Have you guys got that straight, you Ezra Pound lusters or lovers or whatever? That's not English. And this is in his first canto. Came we then to the bounds of deepest water. Okay, and bounds to the edges of deepest water? How? Why does he have bounds in there? It's not even for alliteration or whatever. So I think he's anticipating the came in the previous line when he says, sun to a slumber, shadows o'er all the ocean. So the sun, it should be the sun came to his slumber. But no, I don't know what it is. Sun to his slumber. It should be the sun to his slumber. But the sun started slumbering or something like that. Shadows o'er all the ocean. Shadows came over all the ocean. I don't know. I mean, those two phrases kind of just stick out like a couple of sore thumbs. One sore thumb I've actually had two sore thumbs, and it's not fun. And two in the same line, not good poetry. Not good prose. This is lousy prose. With the occasion, we could call it poetic prose. There's the occasional alliteration. Okay. Came we then to the bounds of deepest water. Man, gag me with a spoon. I've only got a fork here. Okay, to the Cimmerian lands. These are the lands of Conan. Conan the Barbarian is actually Cimmerian. So, Cimmerian, okay. And people's cities, to the Cimmerian lands, and people's cities covered with close webbed mist. So peopled cities, does he mean populous? What does that mean? When you say something is peopled, it basically means there are people there. Mm-hmm. But isn't that a bit of a I mean, I guess it's what he's saying is it's not a necropolis like a ruined city that they're actually, but yeah.
Unless it's ruined, you would assume that it is
It's
people.
just
So
people there, the people city.
Yeah.
What?
So you might want to point out if it's not populated.
Yes, I think it was Mark Twain or someone else came up with the title, but maybe he got it from Mark Twain, this author. The title of the book it's more recent, Mark Twain. When you see an adjective, kill it. Well, I don't believe in killing it, but I believe in enlivening it. Like actually raising it from the dead. Peopled here is just non-functioning. It's a redundancy. I wish I had my blue pen and had a photocopy of this because I wouldn't want to be marking up a library. And peopled cities. So we came to the Cimmerian lands, and we came to the peopled cities covered with close web mist. I guess you could see mist as being like a spider's web or something like that. It's like I guess it'd be uncomfortable when you walk into a spider's web. That's not comfortable, right? Mm-hmm. You're kind of clawing it away from your eyes and whatever. Mm-hmm. So that's actually a fairly good image, I suppose. That might be the first one. Wow. And we're past the 10th line, I think. Yeah, okay. Unpierced ever with glitter of sun rays. Unpierced ever. On and ever is never. Okay?
Yeah, but
never pierced. Okay,
yeah,
see how
the
that
line is so bad anyway.
Mm-hmm. Okay, go for it. Tell me.
No, well, it doesn't mean anything. It's just a jumble of words.
Yeah, there's a lot of jumbling going on. Whole lot of jumbling going on to kind of like, am I channeling Jerry Lee Lewis? Someone. Unpierced, so it should be never pierced with the glitter. You're hearing it goes to Ezra Pound? The glitter of the rays of the sun, of sun rays. Sun rays. It sounds almost like some sort of, there's a ray in the ocean or something like that. Nor with stars stretched. Now hold on. Is that stretched stars, or is it stretched with stars? Unpierced ever with glitter of sun rays, nor with stars stretched. How do you read that? Stretched with stars, or with...
I think he's talking about the glitter not looking like stars. I don't know.
Stretched with stars.
Well, he talked about the sun going down earlier, and now it's all shadows, so maybe there's no glitter on the water, and it doesn't look like stars.
Okay. Well, there's a stretch in the next line. That might help out. Now understand, poetry shouldn't need help from the next line. Okay? That's James Bell on poetry. Poetry shouldn't need help from the next line. Okay? You refer back to things. You don't refer forward. This might help out a little bit. Nor with stars stretched, nor looking back from heaven. Swartest night. So that's blackest night. So he's using swart again. Once is not enough. Yeah, you only die twice as a poet. Pound died every line almost. Anyway, swartest night. So that's blackest night, or it really should be darkest night, stretched over wretched men there. Okay, now let's see how this works out. Nor looking back from heaven, nor stretched with stars. So it should be actually never. Never with stretched with stars, nor never looking back from heaven. No, night looking back from heaven. Looking back from heaven. Night looking back from heaven. Looking back at what? Like, I guess people looking at night. stretched over. So here's the stretched. So not with stretched over with stars. I presume it's parallel here. You see how it's in the following line stretched over. Wretched men there. I think he's trying the swordist and stretch. He's trying to do a little alliteration there and a little rhyme on stretch and wretched over wretched men. So this is like kind of like Anglo-Saxon, but you know, Anglo-Saxon had kind of rules about how they did the alliteration. You just don't go throw it in hither, thither, and yon, higgledy-piggledy. Otherwise, it's just poetic prose. They actually had some standards about when they threw the alliteration in and when they didn't. So this is like a prose parody of Anglo-Saxon alliterative verse. Why he'd use it for, I mean, this seems to be a story about from Homer about Ulysses wandering and wandering around to Circe's place and stuff like that. Here they did rights. Okay, who is the they? Oh, Perimedes and Eurylochus. So why does he say here they did rights? Here, Perimedes and Eurylochus did rights.
Yeah.
You see, we leave out the they. Where's the blue pencil? Yeah. Here they did rights, Perimedes and Eurylochus, and drawing sword from my hip. And drawing sword from hip, and drawing my sword from hip, and drawing my sword from my hip. Isn't that the smoothest way to say it? Drawing sword from my hip, and drawing sword. Yeah, maybe you'd say that. I dug the L square pitkin. So what is an L? It's basically, I think, half a yard or something like that. It's the measure. Would this be about 1.5 meters or something like that? 1.5 yards.
Feet? Yeah.
1.5 feet, I should say.
Yeah.
Yeah. So half a meter, half a yard. About right. That's what an L is, from the elbow down to, I presume, the end of your. Yeah. So.
That smells good.
The L square. So pitkin, I presume pitkin is a little pit. Kind of old-fashioned word. Why not just say a little pit, pitkin? Kin is kind of like, where do we have, some nursery rhymes have something kin, you know? Siskin, munchkin, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Poured we libations onto each the dead. How much time? 5?
11.
11 minutes. Man, oh man. It seems like we've been going forever.
I know.
Yeah, Jesus. Okay, so this is a horrible line coming up.
Are you going to go through the whole book this way?
Well, I don't think in Canada
Nobody
the
would listen.
copyrights, well, it doesn't matter. You know, like if no one's going to listen to all of it, but maybe someone's going to listen in to a little portion of it and say, Ezra Pound has just got the most inflated reputation of any fake poet out there going. It's awful. So, poured we libations onto each the dead. Okay, where's the blue pen? First, inversion. Doesn't belong in English, okay? We poured libations onto each of the dead. Or onto the dead. You see what I'm saying? Each the dead. You could even say the dead, each. But you don't say each the dead. Have you ever heard anyone talk English that way? No. Yeah, each the dead. I think he's trying to sound, I don't know why. Yeah, you know, like the Odyssey's supposed to have happened sometime around 1200 BC. It's really between 720 BC roughly and 712 BC. Yeah? But, well, 711 BC. It was really 711 BC. It ends with a solar eclipse, and that happened, 711 BC. Not a novelization, folks. There might be legendary and even mythic kind of touches to Iliad and Odyssey. The basic foundation for those stories are in something we might call history. 711 BC. And first mead and then sweet wine. So mead is just honey wine, right? And water mixed with white flour. Okay, I don't Wow, is that about the first line where there hasn't been a problem?
Huh?
That it's first mead and then sweet wine. It should be then sweet wine. Why the and? And then water. You see how he's got a first mead, then sweet wine, then we say water mixed with white flour. But you see, why is the and there? Because there's an and, water mixed with white flour. It should be first mead, then sweet wine, then water mixed with white flour. Or mead, sweet wine, water mixed with white flour. If we're really going to but you don't say first mead and then sweet wine. Then you should say and then water mixed with white flour. See how he's just junk stuff in there? If you're doing parallelism, you'd better do parallel. Then prayed I many a prayer to the sickly death's heads. What's wrong there?
I'm just watching the birds.
There we go. So
They're
much better.
sweet.
Yeah.
It's a nice day to sit outside.
So leave the then out. Then I prayed, not prayed I, many a prayer to, well, why don't you say, many is old-fashioned, right? Prayed many prayers, okay, many a prayer. God almighty. Ugh. To the sickly death's heads, sickly death's heads. As set in Ithaca, sterile bowls of the best for sacrifice, heaping the pyre with goods, a sheep Tiresias only, black, and a bell sheep. Okay. Dark blood flowed in the fosse, souls out of Erebus, cadaverous dead of brides of youth and of the old who had borne much, souls stained with recent tears, girls tender girls. You do that in French. You do that in Spanish. You do that in Italian. You don't do that in English. So let's try and make, okay, as set in Ithaca. Then prayed I many a prayer to the sickly death's heads. Okay, as set in Ithaca. Set. What is he talking about? Because after death's heads, it's a semicolon. As set in Ithaca. Sterile bulls. So sterile bulls, what are they, steers? Why doesn't he say steers? Where's the blue pen? You know. Bulls of the best for sacrifice. Of the best steer, as set in Ithaca. I don't know what he's jabbering about there. As set in Ithaca. The best steers for sacrifice. It's awful. Awful. Heaping the pyre. So that's like a sacrificial pyre with goods. A sheep to Tiresias only. 2 Tiresias, wouldn't you say 4? But anyway. Tiresias is a guy who, legendary figure. He's supposed to have married the dawn. And he got eternal life from her, but he aged. So he just kept on aging and aging and aging. Of course, she's a goddess who didn't age. Kind of tragic. I think that was Tiresias. Anyway, oh no, that's Tithonus. I'm mixing it up with Tithonus. Anyway, Tiresias got to experience what it was like to be a woman as well as a man. Different times, but yeah. Black and a bell sheep. Okay. A sheep to Tiresias only. Black and a bell sheep. So I think he's talking about one sheep, and it's black and a bell sheep. So I think it's a bellwether sheep, the one that's kind of leads sheep around and stuff like that. But why doesn't he say a black bell sheep? See how he says black and a bell sheep? Where's the blue pen? He's got an extra and there. A sheep to Tiresias only. Why doesn't he just say a black bell sheep to Tiresias only? Dark blood flowed in the fosse. Fosse's kind of like a ditch or something like that, presumably around the altar, sacrificial altar. Souls out of Erebus. Erebus is a designation for Hades. Cadaverous dead. So, cadaverous dead. You know, we usually say that cadaverous about something living. Isn't it kind of ridiculous to say the dead are cadaverous? Oh, God. Where's the blue pen? Of brides, of youths. So he doesn't have a comma in between. He's one of these idiots who probably started the fashion. Oh, the end of a line is as good as punctuation. No, it's not. Come to the end of the line, and punctuation is supposed to be there in regular English. You put the punctuation there. Because I'm going of brides, of youths.
Well, yeah, especially when you don't have the rhyme or anything. There's no reason for the end
For
of the
you
line
to
to be there. It's cut off, you know,
Yeah.
wherever.
Here,
So,
run over, yeah.
so
Put-
there's, it doesn't
put-
show anything.
I don't care what the fashion is. Pauline's right. Don't leave the punctuation out at the end of the line.
Because you're jamming. So the line that isn't the end of the line. It continues on.
You can enjam.
So.
You know, like it's in order to avoid people stumbling over stuff. People don't like reading poetry or fake poetry or whatever, stuff that's chopped up in lines. They don't like it. Why make it harder? Because you're Ezra Pound and you're a genius in your own mind. Yeah.
Well, he managed to market himself.
Oh,
as
he was
such
a great
to a lot of
marketer.
people, so.
He really boomed other people and boomed himself. 2 minutes?
Yep.
There we go.
2.5.
Of brides, of youths, and of the old who had borne much. Yeah, what does that mean? You know, I've borne much, so what? When you get old, you've borne much. That's the whole thing. People who don't get old just can't bear much. In many cases, some people, it's just accident. Soul stained with recent tears. Girls tender. Men many. What's wrong with many men? Almost every line, folks, you're lucky if there's only one thing wrong. And I'm meaning wrong. It's not a question of taste. I'm talking about stuff that isn't English. I'm talking about stuff that's just garbage. I'm talking about lousy images. I'm talking about old-fashioned words. I'm talking about this, that, and the other thing. You're lucky if there's only one per line. You're really lucky if the line is just okay. Many, mauled, so he's got a bit of alliteration going there. Mauled with bronze lance heads. Mauled. Okay, who had been mauled or something like that? Are they still being mauled? No, like, you see how that is? Battle, spoil, bearing yet dreary. Yeah, he's got to go with D-R-E-O-R-Y, dreary. I think that's supposed to have an A there, but it's probably an old-fashioned spelling for dreary. Battle, spoil, bearing yet dreary arms. These, I presume that means they're drearily bearing them. They're kind of, whatever, battle spoil. These many crowded about me. These many men. Why not just say, these men crowded about me? He's already said that they're men.
That there's many of them.
Yeah, got to get an extra syllable.
Yeah.
With shouting, pallor upon me. Cried to my men for more beasts. Slaughtered the herds. Sheep slain of bronze. Basically, we'll start on page 4, which is the second page of this. You tune in, folks, because you're going to get a dose of this. Because this guy's supposed to be like one of the great poets. John Crow Ransom. John Crow Ransom. Pound's Canto is a modern classic that everybody has to know. You're going to know it. The way I know it. The way it should be known. Not by people who haven't read it or haven't read it properly.